The Obamacare insurance exchanges have not even started, and they are already under government investigation. The Washington Examiner's Richard Pollock joins us. Nice to see you, Richard.
Pleasure.
So tell me, what are they under investigation for?
Well, about $2 billion has already been handed out to 24 so-called nonprofit health exchange co-ops.
$2 billion?
$2 billion with a B. And this was tucked away in the Obamacare legislation. Very few people looked at it. And what we've discovered are two things. One is that the government itself says that 4 out of 10 of these groups that have been given tax-free loans by the taxpayer are likely to fail. They're likely to default, and the taxpayers are going to have to pick up the default on the loan.
That's an Obama administration projection of failure, right?
That is the White House Office of Management and Budget.
They project this huge failure rate with our money before we even get started.
Absolutely, because these are startups, and most of these groups are being organized by activists who don't have a lot of experience, but they have a lot of enthusiasm. They are anti-insurance company, and they are trying to compete with the insurance companies with these non-profit cooperatives.
All right, let's take a look at a couple of them. We have Maine, that got this one co-op got $62 million, but apparently there's a little problem with the CEO. He's now dead, but what happened?
Well, actually it's the president of the co-op, and he was also the president of the sponsoring organization for the co-op. His name was Reverend Bob Carlson, and Reverend Carlson was, it turns out, for 36 years, a child molester. He had sexually abused teenagers between the ages of 11 and 18, and in November of 2011, he was confronted by the Maine State Police, and 3 days later, he jumped off a bridge in Maine and committed suicide. 4 days after that, the Department of Health and Human Services learned about his death. He was the president of an applicant for $62 million of loan money to set up a co-op in the state of Maine. And what's really interesting is that the federal government decided to award the $62 million 4 months before the Maine State Police even came out with their investigative report about what happened, who was implicated, and it could have implicated other people in the co-op itself. The opaqueness and the secrecy that shrouds the decision-making of HHS in awarding money for all of these co-ops is very complete.
Well, here's one that we have. This is for New York, New Jersey, and Oregon. $340 million given to Sarah Horowitz. She's a longtime friend of President Barack Obama. She's a union activist lawyer. She ran Freelancers Insurance Company in New York. It ranked dead last in New York the last 2 years for consumer satisfaction. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners also rated this company terrible. They found 78 times the national average of consumer complaints for this company. We're not even finding people who are good at their work to lend them $340 million. I mean, they're lousy at their work, apparently.
And the question is, what are the standards HHS employed? What's the capabilities of these organizations? Who are the members? Do they have expertise in insurance? Are they competent in insurance? And what we're finding is none of these answers have been given by the Department of Health and Human Services, and as a result, 2 full House committees are investigating these co-ops and are demanding that the HHS come clean and start talking about what were the standards that they use to award taxpayer money.
Here's another one. Iowa and Nebraska, it says their chief financial officer of the co-op has a string of high-profile failures. I mean, why are we letting money to people who have a history? Can't we find people who have a history of success? I mean, even if you think this co-op is a good idea, you know, as part of the Obamacare, why don't we look for people who have a history of success?
Greta, these are all startups, so you want to have people that have a track record of success. This guy tried to launch an Amazon-style health and consumer online buying service for green technologies and sustainable technologies, and it was a complete flop. And he had 2 other.
It went belly up.
Went totally belly up. It's unbelievable. So the question is, what's the vetting? What are the standards? Who's been giving this money?
And who has given out this $2 billion? I mean, who gets to write the check? I mean, who gets the okay?
Well, it's a small department of the Department of Health and Human Services.
Do we even know the names of people there? Well, that's good.
We do know the names of this unit that was created by Obamacare, and but we do not know who the individuals are.
So we don't know who's authorizing this $2 billion? We don't even know who's doing that?
We know only the head of the organization. We do not know who the people are. We do not know the political ties that these people have and whether political favors are being given to these people as opposed to the issue of sheer competence.
Well, Chairman Issa says he's investigating this with his committee, so we'll see where that takes us. Richard, thank you. Never dull, huh?
Absolutely.
Never dull.